The hate towards Islam has been around for quite some time, and I'm sure you guys have understood this better than I do. After 9/11, there was tons of propaganda that was spread everywhere. I remember as a child, there was a chain email that went around. My grandma sent it to my mother, and I sat there as a kid while we went over everything. And in this chain email, it talked about how Muslims are taking over the planet. They have this silent invasion that's going on. And it's all this propaganda that went on. It was in chain emails that even my grandma was sending to my own mother. But since 9/11, everybody has came to the conclusion that it was fake. Everybody knows that the government was involved in 9/11, that it was all propaganda, it was all BS. I mean, we have videos of the dancing Israelis that everybody has seen by now. But even with that in place, even with people knowing that it was fake and it was all set up and it was an inside job, people still for some reason hold on to the hate towards Islam. And not only do they hold on to the hate towards Islam, it is getting worse. It is getting worse and worse by the day, and something needs to happen about this. We have two situations that just happened that is absolutely unacceptable. And I have a funny suspicion, now I can't prove this, but I have a funny suspicion that the media is partially involved in this hatred. And you'll see what I mean whenever we break down the article of Thumb Man right here. I don't know the rules of YouTube yet, so we're just going to call him Thumb Man because I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name or not. But he looks like a thumb, so he's Thumb Man. I'll put a link to the article in the description so you guys can read this yourself, see if you see the same things that I'm seeing. But Thumb Man here was not arrested for anti-Islam Facebook posts like they say. So the title here is that ex-soldier was jailed for anti-Islam Facebook posts, but there's a lot more underneath the hood for this one. So initially when I saw the headline, I kind of thought this article was trying to spread awareness about the hatred towards Islam. But as I read further, it kind of seems like they're trying to make him be the victim. They're trying to justify his actions. The first thing that told me that was the fact that it's an ex-soldier. Now, how is that relevant, right? I know plenty of veterans, plenty of nice veterans that aren't out here spewing hatred out their mouth 24/7. Now, the reason why they're mentioning the fact that he's an ex-soldier and that he's a veteran is because they're blaming this onto his PTSD. And I want everybody to understand, there are plenty of veterans with PTSD that have been through very traumatic events, that have actually seen active combat and active duty, and they don't act like this. They're not out here spewing hatred. And there's a good friend of mine that was a veteran from Iraq that I talk to all the time, and I used to speak to more frequently. And when I reverted to Islam, he was really glad about it, and he said he met a lot of nice Islamic people when he was overseas. Now, what the article claims he was actually arrested for was inciting riots. He was gathering people together on Facebook to go attack Muslims. And the article states that he said that the civil war is here. The only thing that's missing is the bullets. I had to pull up the article to double check this. In the article, it claims in one of the other posts that he wrote, he said he is only racist to those who suck the life out of our culture. Then after the fact, he started posting images generated by AI that I can't even describe on here, but they were very anti-Islamic. And what's worse about this situation is he's not alone. I know guys just like this personally because they're always in my DMs. Guys like this message me every single day to the point where I'm going to start screenshotting them and posting them on my story so everybody can see. Thumb Man and his colleagues DM me all the time calling me a race traitor. Now, further down in this news article, it starts to talk about how he was a model citizen in prison now. That he is a role model in prison and he has a positive attitude that's dedicated towards integrity. Please click the link and read this yourself after you're done watching this because this is exactly what it said. Now, I'm tired of looking at Thumb Man, so we're going to move on to the second one that is more sad. So we have a community of Muslims in South Florida that are getting together trying to build a cemetery. And of course, the local community is going to be upset about this. Now, according to everything I can find and all the research I could dig up, the Muslim population in South Florida is actually growing. It seems to be a rapidly growing community filled with a lot of good people. And due to this growth of the Islamic community in South Florida, of course, they're going to need more burial grounds. It's just part of life. Now, it should be no surprise to anybody whenever I say people in America don't really have much respect for the deceased. I've seen it multiple times, but whenever a loved one passes away, most of the time the family just argues and fights with each other over who gets the loved one's things. A lot of the time it even is to the extent where the relatives of the person who passed away get excited because they get to inherit some kind of money. And I'm not joking about this. It really is a sad situation. This is exactly how Americans think. And I know it is a pretty sad and disgusting thought, but keep that in mind when we go through this one. But in this article, it speaks about a mother who lost her daughter in 2011 to cancer. And whenever her daughter passed away, they needed to go get her buried. And there was no local cemeteries for Muslims that were appropriate that she could have a proper burial in. And so it added a tremendous layer of stress. It was an extra layer of stress for this mother. So she was already dealing with losing her daughter, losing her child, which no human should go through, but unfortunately it happens. And then she had the added layer of stress where she couldn't find a cemetery that was proper, that was based around Islamic teachings. And so the Muslim community in the area has been aware of this issue for quite some time, and they finally have gotten together and they're able to solve this problem. They're able to work together as a community and set up a proper cemetery where Muslims can be buried at properly. And so when the Islamic community comes together and tries to solve this, the neighboring people within that area, of course, start blocking it. They start worrying about things like property value and this and that. And it's all excuses, because if you look historically of the area, every single one of these land disputes, over commercial or otherwise, have only been towards Muslims. These land disputes never happen over Christian cemeteries or just private corporate-owned cemeteries where they're making a profit off of. They never have issues at all. And I don't think these people realize, but Muslims raise the property value. You can see this in a multitude of statistics. There was a bunch of articles I found that talk about this exactly. Muslims raise property value. The houses are cleaner, everything is kept up, the community has less crime. But this is all excuses. These are just things they make up in claims so they can try to get their way. They try to throw their weight around and attack a religion that they've never looked into. Most of these Americans don't know the first thing about Islam. And even a year into it, I'll admit, I'm still learning. If you're from the West, you don't really know much about it. You're not accustomed to it. And the Muslims here really do stick to themselves because of the judgment. But even that being said, even if they're uneducated, this is just heartless. Something like a cemetery is not something you should be blocking. That is one of the most innocent things. People are just trying to bury their loved ones. It's not like they're trying to set a military outpost next to your home, or set up a bar or a liquor store, which goes to my next point. Nobody has issues where there's a bar and a liquor store and all these other things. I mean, throughout Florida, you can gamble anywhere. It's not technically legal here, but there's plenty of gas station and convenience stores you walk into, and you could put your money in a slot machine and just gamble right there. Nobody has an issue with that. But for some reason, when Muslims want to set up a cemetery for their community, everybody throws a temper tantrum. Stuff like this is getting out of hand. It's getting too far. There's riots going on. I get it. Tensions are high because of the election and all this good stuff. But it needs to come to a point where people need to stop. The way we get people to stop is through education, and I do firmly believe that. So over time, the more education comes out about Islam, the more the religion spreads, the more people will calm down about stuff like this. Now, I appreciate every single one of you guys listening and commenting all the time. So that book I've been working on, I've been taking everybody's comments, their stories, their personal experiences about how God saved their life, how Allah came into their life and benefited them and blessed them in some way. I've been taking all those comments and I've compiled them into an ebook right now. This is going to be an ever-going project throughout months or hopefully years in the future. I'm going to continue to take new comments and add it to the book and just update it on Gumroad as I go. That book is out right now. It is at dravenishere.gumroad.com. I'll put a link in the description for you as well. Now, this book is on donations only, so if you guys can't afford it, just please download it, just get it. I want more people to see this. There's plenty of comments and stories that I read while going through this and making this book that brought me to tears. There were some pretty serious moments, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I want people to understand. I want people to really see and perceive the blessings of Allah. So once again, it's at dravenishere.gumroad.com.